Good afternoon. Hi, thank you so much for joining us. My name's Kneebone. I'm the Regional Director for ESG for Law Group London. Law Group owner-operated properties, and we've got 6 based in Washington, D.C., Amsterdam, and London. So we're all thrilled to be here today, and we've got several topics to discuss with you to try and really achieve our goal of how we can save the planet, but also save our businesses, which we really need to do. To set the scene, sustainability, whether it's environmental or social, is an urgent call to action. But at the same time, it really provides these immense pressures to the independent hotel community. We have so much coming in with overload of data. We have a lot of new suppliers providing us with new options and solutions, but there is also greenwashing, and there is a pressure, if we want to take on our business clients and comply with all of the RFPs, that we take on new solutions that there is no legislation or regulation for. If we want to sift through this, and if we are meaningful and genuinely trying to do this properly, it's incredibly tough. This wonderful group of panelists, who I'm going to let introduce themselves, are here today to really share their relevant and tangible points so that we can teach you all and try and help as much as we can. So I'm going to hand over to Natalie. Hi.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Hi, everyone. I'm Nat Campbell, and I'm co-CEO of Belu Water. Just model it here. The premise behind Belu is that we're a drinks business that puts people and the environment first. So we do mineral water, tonics and mixers, and filtration systems. And I'll be talking a lot about the journey that we've been on to embed our purpose in all of our activities over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Hi, Phillipa.
Hello. Hi, I'm Phillipa Hughes, and I'm the Managing Director of the Bull Inn in Totnes. We're an organic pub, and we run our hospitality business and our hotel guided by a set of noble principles, which cover the 3 main principles of people, planet, profit. And we do not greenwash, and we do not cut corners, and we're pretty radical in our approach to how we do things.
Thank you. Hello, Jenny.
Hi there. My name's Jenny Herrera. I run the Good Business Charter, which is an accreditation scheme which looks at responsible business behaviour, including, of course, your environmental responsibility and a lot of aspects around social responsibility. So I'm going to be looking a bit more in the round about this subject for hospitality, and we work for all sectors. So, but I'm looking forward to showing why hospitality, I think, is a particularly important sector to adopt this kind of accreditation.
Thank you, and hi, Jess.
Hi, yes, I'm Jess, so I look after the EU for Karma Drinks. We make the world's most ethical soft drinks, and they're organic as well. So I'm just here to talk to you about our journey to get here so far, and then how we communicate our sustainability and ethics with our consumers and get people excited about what we're doing.
Okay, so I've had the pleasure of the last 3 weeks of really connecting with this team of incredible leaders. And I hope what you'll sense today is there is so much passion, but there is also a very consistent approach of dealing with the issues and dealing with the risks head on. So we've designed the session so that every panelist can have time to talk through a number of topics that they have expert insight into. That will take about sort of 7 or so minutes per panelist. And then at the end, we expect about 10 to 15 minutes of time where we can open everything up to the room for questions. So ready to go with Natalie. And this leads us straight into that quite neatly. You'll be sharing some recommendations on how to begin your journey with the UN SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable and Development Goals, which we did hear about earlier in some of the panels, and best practices for that. Also advice on materials that are currently available within the supply chain and drilling down on what is actually working, and also how to deal with certifications and carbon offsetting. Thanks, Natalie.
Lots to cover there. So to start, for context, I joined Belu on the 2nd of March 2020. And when I joined, Belu was a 6 million turnover business giving WaterAid £1 million a year. So all of our net profit goes to WaterAid. I'm sure you can guess what happened 3 weeks into me being CEO. And Belu only serves the hospitality industry and workplaces, so sales pretty much flatlined. The conversation I had with the team at the time was, who are we when we come out of this? How do we ensure that Belu is still here in the next 10 years? How do we come out of this pandemic really leaning into our purpose that's about people and planet? So one of the first things that we did was look at our governance. And I think this is really key for anyone building a business that's thinking about the journey they're going on. If your governing structure is underpinned by what you believe, what it is that you're trying to deliver in the world, then when your back's against the wall, when COVID hits and there's no money, you will be driven to act with the right intent. So what we did was change our company articles. So our company articles now, our primary object is to deliver Sustainable Development Goals 6, 12 and 13. 6 is related to water access, 12 is responsible consumption and production, and 13 is climate action. So having those embedded within our articles means that's what I'm performance managed against. Yes, there's a financial target, but in reality, my board is saying, what are we doing to really shift the needle on these 3 areas? Which means we're committed to giving water aid all of our net profits. And even when we made no profit in 2020, we still gave them £100,000. The same, we gave them even more in 2021, again with minimal profit. And that's because we want to see lives transformed all over the world when it comes to access to water. We then looked at our product. So most people will probably know Belu in a glass bottle. We're still in rPET. So lots of people, actually someone went up to the stand and said, why are you in plastic? We're backing plastic because it's low carbon. We produce it in the UK, and the alternatives for on the go are not as environmentally sound. If you're picking up a can of water, if you look at where that can of water is produced, it's been shipped in from another country. We do not export. We don't see any reason why you should be shipping water around the world. We then decided to cannibalize part of our business by going into filtration. The reality is that most organizations could offer filtration as an option. They can also offer tap. And we actively say that. Most businesses don't talk about the other alternatives when it comes to the environment, but we do. We give people a choice and we give them options. And then finally, when it comes to climate action, we, for the last 10 years, have published our carbon footprint, and we've also been carbon neutral. The gift of time that we had from 2020 onwards meant that we could start to look at what offsetting really is. And what we realized is the marketplace for offsetting, because it's unregulated, we could not guarantee that we were actually investing in projects that were offsetting, that were taking carbon out of the atmosphere, that were really benefiting communities. So we made the decision last year to not offset anymore. It means, based on the frameworks, that we can no longer be carbon neutral, but instead we've decided to invest in UK-based charities that are working towards climate resilience. So we are working with the Canals and Rivers Trust and the Rivers Trust to restore the wetlands around Montgomery Canal. For an organisation like ours to make that shift when so much of our narrative has been about being carbon neutral, it took a lot of soul searching. But the reality is that because we're governed in a way that means we have to do the right thing by people and planet, we took that difficult decision, and we know that we are doing work that is benefiting communities in the UK in a way that we can see and feel, our teams can see and feel, anyone that works with Belu can engage with and see and feel, versus a marketplace that actually feels quite nebulous at the moment. Things might change, but right now we did not feel like it was the best option for us. So that was some of the foundational work that we did at Belu. We also went on a journey of looking at what tents we can be in. So what accreditation should we be looking at? Who should we be partnering with? And so with the SDGs as one option, and there are 17 SDGs, we aligned to a lot more of them. The 3 that we chose were the ones that fit most closely with what we do as a business. We started to look at B Corp. We looked at Climate Neutral Now, which is a new UN accreditation. We were already PAS 2060, which is the BSI carbon neutral standard. And what we realized was that for some of the accreditations, we would need to do things that were counterintuitive to the journey that we were going on in terms of being curious and driving innovation and sticking by plastic. So we're not a B Corp. And we're not a B Corp because water is a controversial industry for B Corps. And we've said, okay, that's absolutely fine. We don't have to be a B Corp. No one has the monopoly on good. We will publish everything we do, and Belu has always done this, but we will publish what we do in our impact report so that anyone can see where every single penny goes within Belu. You can see what our impact is. And last year we launched our purpose P&L. So for us, when we think about profit and loss, it isn't a financial profit and loss. It's everything aligned to the 3 SDGs that I mentioned, everything that we do operationally, and all of the other impacts that enable us to really be a drinks business that puts people and the environment first. And then on your final point around materials, we were just having the conversation around sustainability literacy. And I think one of the most challenging things for people in the hospitality industry when you're thinking about what do you buy is really understanding the journey of the products that you're offering. And what I would say is short supply chain usually indicates low carbon footprint. If products are being shipped around the world or flown around the world, it's trying to understand what's the source, where did it start, what's the journey. And there are tools that enable you to do that. We've recently embedded provenance on our website, provenance.org. That's a tool that enables businesses to outline the journey of all of their products within their supply chain and talk about the efficacy of products and have that verified by a third party. So going back to short supply chain, thinking about short supply chain, everything that we produce for Belu is produced in the UK. Our bottles have UK made embossed on them. The alternative is the reality of the drinks industry is that most of these bottles are made in Turkey, made in the continent, brought into the UK and filled. So for us, producing in the UK was really important. We've lightweighted our glass as well. Taking cullet out of the product means it's lighter, again, better for logistics and transport. These are the sorts of things that people should be looking at and thinking about. And I'm going to, stand up for the dreaded P word, for plastic. Actually, plastic that has been recycled, creating value for something before it ends up in an ocean or ends up in wasteland, has its place. And so we have decided to stick with our PET. We use a bottle that is 100% recycled material and 100% recyclable in the UK. Aluminium, we do not have the infrastructure in the UK to recycle the amount of aluminium that we're using. And so a lot of it, again, is shipped out of the UK. The carbon footprint is higher. The carbon footprint on glass is high. We don't hide that. We publish that in our impact report as well. And so glass, plastic, aluminium, Tetra, again, looking at if you're picking up something in Tetra, where was it made? Tetra has, and things in carton, there's aluminium and plastic in it. And so it's just, when you're thinking about materials, it's the curiosity to say, where has this come from? What does it really contain? And can it really be recycled easily in the UK? Or is this product just leaving my world, and I think it's being recycled, but actually it's ending up in landfill, harming some other communities somewhere else in the world? And yes, it takes a bit more time to go on that journey, but actually once you do start going on that journey, it enables you to make decisions. And there are always trade-offs, right? There are always trade-offs, especially in the challenging circumstances we face now where people are thinking about price in addition to thinking about what they're buying. But as long as you know, then you can avoid greenwashing and saying, oh, we're plastic free. But actually, if you've got Tetra around, you're not plastic free. Or, we're a low carbon business, but if majority of the things on the shelves are aluminium, you're not a low carbon business. So it just gives you the insights to be able to share the right story with the end consumer. And the thing that I would say finally is what Belu does with its profit is give it all away. Not all businesses have the luxury of doing that, and I feel very privileged to run a business where that's what I'm here to do. build a business, change the way the world sees water, and ultimately give WaterAid as much money as possible. That is really important for us as Belu to show there is another way to do business. There is a different way to build businesses that gives back to communities that we immediately serve, but communities all over the world that don't have access to the luxury of clean drinking water that we do. So I'll stop there.
Thanks
I hope
so
that
much,
covers
Natalie.
everything that you needed.
I really just want to go back to the wonderful work that you're doing, that you're investing in waterways.
Yeah.
What are the options that independent hoteliers can look at, can invest in, if they're not going to go for carbon offsetting? What other projects can they get involved in that they feel are audited and have legislation?
I can't sing the praises of water charities enough. So the Canal and Rivers Trust and Rivers Trust ultimately will be looking after a canal somewhere close to one of your venues. And I would say start there. With Rivers Trust, we've actually built an interactive map to look at all of the waterways around our supply chain area, so we can see what the impact of our supply chain is on any of the waterway networks close to where we operate and what we can do to help any form of restoration. And then with the Canals Trust, we focus specifically on the Montgomery Canal because it's next to our source. And so for us, not spending £20,000 a year on offsetting and spending £20,000 with those charitable organisations that we can see we can engage with means that we know exactly where our money's going, we know exactly what the impact is, and we have an impact partner that's going on a long-term journey with us versus ultimately paying an ecosystem of consultants, really, to choose some options for us in a faraway land on a project that we can't see, feel, touch, that may or may not actually have any climate resilience. So I would say build local relationships with local partners, understand the impact of your immediate supply chain, map it if you can, and then invest, even small amounts of investment in a charitable organisation or a social enterprise will go a lot further than sort of being scared into buying offsets off the shelf, which are ridiculously expensive at the moment. And so I think you'd get much more bang for your buck by working through local partners.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Jessamy, leading on from Natalie's comments, Karma have a Labour of Love project in Sierra Leone that so much has been dedicated to and really demonstrates all the touch points of how you of your concept. Would you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, if anyone's not familiar with Karma drinks, we make ethical soft drinks. So we have a cola, gingerella, lemonade with a little lemon on the front. And much like Belu, actually, we were set up about 10 years ago in New Zealand, and the idea was our founders really wanted to show that consumers would be happy to pay a little bit extra for a product that has a really clean, ethical supply chain. We know we're paying a fair wage to the people that grow the ingredients that we grow. And in doing that, we also try and minimize the impact on the planet as we go. So all of our drinks are organic certified and plastic free. And where we couldn't find a sort of fair trade supply, whether it's sugar or fruit, we've then looked through that supply chain ourselves and really gone to work, which is where our connection with Sierra Leone comes from. So our cola has a real cola nut in it, which is grown in the communities in the rainforest in Sierra Leone. And I think because 10 years ago, none of the big name cola brands, of which 2 billion are drunk a day, none of them actually contained any cola nut. So there was no fair trade cola. So we went to Sierra Leone, and we now have a really great relationship with the communities there who grow the cola nuts for us. And very much, as Natalie was saying, it's that connection of really understanding that supply chain. 1% of revenue from every single one of our drinks goes back to the cola nut growers, and they tell us what they'd like to do with that money. So over the last 10 years, we have educated 850 girls. We've built schools, bridges. We're rehabilitating a bit of the rainforest at the moment, working with the local villagers on building roofs on their houses. And I think the real success of the Karma Foundation and what really works for it is we don't sit in a room in London or Auckland where our head office is and say, this is what we think that you should do with your money, all these people that are living miles and miles away from us. We ask them, and then we work with them on projects that they say, and then we help them as best we can from that. So what we're trying to do as Karma Drinks is connect people sitting in an independent hotel or sitting in a cafe in London or wherever with the people that grow the ingredients that we all rely on for whether it's sugar or juice or fruit, and just create that ethical, fair trade all the way through the system.
Thank you, Jessamy. It's so authentic. How do you feel when companies greenwash? And what recommendations can we give for how to avoid it for smaller companies?
Yeah, well, who is feeling a bit annoyed about Coca-Cola sponsoring COP27, or is that just me? I wasn't really planning on talking about it, and then I read it, and I was like, Anyway, so yeah, I feel quite annoyed about greenwashing, to be honest. Yeah, it can happen. And I think it's a very easy thing to do, because it's quite a confusing world, the world of sustainability. There are so many different certifications, and there are so many things that need to be fixed throughout supply chain and climate, that not one brand can tackle all of those things. So I would say, like, find your purpose, find what's really true to you, what you can do an impact with, and really try and make the most difference you can within that space. For what we do at Karma to try and avoid greenwashing is we don't just sort of say we do what we say we do. We sort of look for outside experts to come and certify us. So we are organic certified, we are fair trade certified, and we're just about to, in 2 weeks' time, be B Corp certified, which is really exciting. It's taken 10 years. But we're going to be in the top 5% of all global brands, which we're really excited about, and is sort of testament to the long journey it's taken us to get us to this point. So yeah, I would say to avoid greenwashing, pick your cause and go after it. Don't try and fix all things for all people, and then try and see if there's an outside person that can come and certify that for you.
Okay, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm interested to hear what communication strategies have been really successful for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, as I was just saying, the world of sustainability, like, it's quite big and it's quite scary, and there are lots of different things going on, and it can be super overwhelming. And I think if you look at the news every day, we've got plenty of bad news. So I think what we try and do is, again, with the ethical storyline that we have, is really try and find the human at the center of it and the people that we work with. And whether that, as Natalie was saying, is finding the local charities that are close by that you can actually start telling those stories with. But for Karma, because we work with our cola growing communities and we know them pretty well, we have this amazing rich history of the people that we've been working with for 10 years. So there's a girl called Herrera that she joined the Karma bursary program when she was 10 years old, and has been through school. She's now 17, and then mid-pandemic she actually applied for her nursing degree. So she's our first student to go all the way to nursing college in Freetown. So it's just those kind of human stories, and it's one woman in Sierra Leone, but it's those people buying the drinks here in London that have created that entire journey for her and given her that education. So it's really trying to pull out that human connection, I think, at the end of it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've been talking about the impact that we can make, connecting all the dots, but also how we can support each other as a community. Jenny, hi. And could you tell us more about the Good Business Charter and how important it actually is that hospitality really goes forward and shows everybody the difference they can make as an industry?
Yes, of course. So the Good Business Charter was the idea of Julian Richer, who's a retailer of the hi-fi chain Richer Sounds. So when he designed it, it was thinking about the consumer. And the reality is, and I'm sure we're all very well aware of this, and they were talking about it this morning in the session, that actually we did some polling, 97% of consumers think businesses should act responsibly. The Institute of Business Ethics have looked, and the issue of tax is the top thing that they think businesses should be doing well, followed by climate change. So, there's plenty of other stats I could throw around, but for the general public, it isn't that easy to see what organisations are doing, what they aren't. It does rely on the good comm strategy, trawling through websites. And so what Julian felt, and he'd built up his business with responsible business practices, was to have a very clear, easy to understand accreditation across 10 components, because actually we do want to save the planet, we do want to make things right for the future generations, but what about this generation as well? We do want to provide good work, we want our places to be inclusive workplaces, and we also, as a consumer has demanded, need to be paying our taxes properly. So we've brought all these 10 areas together, including, by the way, the amount of people who can't join us because they haven't sorted out their prompt payment to suppliers, which I find staggering and awful for small businesses, that there are some big businesses who aren't doing that. So we brought them together really as an entry point. These are not an extensive assessment, but they are a starting point, and it's minimum standards across all 10. So it's not like you can be amazing in the planet and not pay the real living wage to your staff. So the idea was to bring all this together to make it a really clear way to the public to say, you know, we know you care, we know you want to shop with, work for responsible businesses, and you're just unsure where to go. And that's why I think the hospitality sector is just a brilliant sector to champion something like this, because you guys are on the front line with the public. And also, historically, it's been a sector that has been known for low wages. And so how brilliant to be able to take the S in ESG and really champion that alongside all the environmental things. It's really exciting to hear these great case studies. And I think the local focus, I just really love that, because to think about the UK and how we can, talking to some of our hotels, we've got 4, including the Bull Inn, that are GBC accredited, and just the importance of looking at local suppliers, which immediately is going to improve the issues around carbon offsetting. So, you know, really we believe that it's in the round. We need to be caring about all this stuff and looking at all this thing in the round. And I totally agree. There'll be maybe one area that you're going to champion and focus on, but you need to get the base things across all areas right first.
Thank you. I'm sure you get a really great bird's eye view into what is going on, and what are the common pitfalls that companies fall into unwittingly, and what can they do to avoid that?
I think there's a couple of main ones. One is someone makes a shift and then they try and do too much. Like, right, we're going to do this and this and this, and they get it all ready, and then they struggle to sustain it. So businesses have to renew with us every year, and after a year, like, well, stuff took over, we were dealing with all these other issues, which of course is entirely understandable, but they bit off more than they could chew, basically. I think the other one, and this was alluded to this morning as well, is if you put one person in charge, so they're going to do everything to do with responsible business, sustainability, and the rest of us are just going to get on with our normal work. The problem is that, first of all, they're just in a little bit of a lonely place trying to get it in. But of course, if they leave, then suddenly it all falls down. So the importance of embedding it, bringing it. When someone becomes GBC accredited, we say, promote it internally, let your team know. We've got some great organisations, not in hospitality, but Schroders Personal Wealth is an example of one that every month they took a component and explained to their employees why employee well-being is important, why customer commitment is important. Promote it externally and just get it embedded in the whole organisation and really become part of who you are. Because some organisations set up with that in mind, but we're working with a lot of organisations that wasn't their starting point, and they look at ESG and they don't know what to do, and this provides a framework to really embed it into the whole organisation.
Thank you. And on that, what would be your top tips that you would give to hotels?
So top tips, you may have heard all that Natalie shared and thought, gosh, it's huge, it's too much. So our first top tip would be start small and start now. So don't think, oh yeah, well I could just do this first thing and then forget about it. You know, right now, text someone in your organisation, we're going to do this tomorrow. We're going to start making this change. So start small, start now. As I've said, embed it. Communicate it. It's no good doing amazing stuff if you're not going to tell people about it. Put it up in the hotel, put it up in the rooms, put it up in the reception, put it on your website. Tell them what you're doing, and join a community. We would obviously advise that. So take a look at the Good Business Charter, maybe being part of our community. At the very least, you'll get monthly mail shots, which will just prompt you to keep thinking about your responsible business behaviour, and don't just think about the E. Make sure you think about the people alongside the planet.
Okay, thank you so much. On that note, Phillipa.
Hello.
Hi. Now, you've had so much success delivering sustainability from an environmental point of view, but also from a social point of view. And you've actually got a very comprehensive and broad spectrum strategy that's quite no nonsense, no bull.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, so we've got 3 sets of noble rules. So we've got the noble rules to trade by, to dine by, and to work by. And they're shaped around the 3 pillars of sustainability, so the people, planet, and profit. So it looks at how we do business and how we operate throughout the whole of the business. And what you're talking about with regards to embedding these business behaviours, these sustainable business behaviours throughout your entire business is kind of key to our success at the Bull. So when we're looking at our noble rules to trade by, looking at choosing certified first, being rigorous in our procurement, trade with those who get it, think about who gets our money, so avoid tax dodgers, choose green energy, reduce and challenge packaging, go grassroots. So all of these integral behaviours are part of how we operate every single day. So they are our kind of driving forces behind how we want to behave as a business. We want to be able to demonstrate that you can behave really well as a hotel, be profitable, and not have to compromise. And if you do compromise, it's an incredibly conscious compromise. So there's sometimes that we can't make the perfect choice because the perfect choice doesn't exist. And there's some of the more challenging things, but by being thoughtful always and being awake and engaged always, we usually find a kind of roundabout to that. And with regards to what you do with the Good Business Charter and looking at a holistic approach, so the noble principles are our holistic approach. They cover all different aspects of the business. And with regards to hospitality, I think that one of the things that we've really struggled with is people, and with recruitment and with staff retention. And our noble rules to work by cover everything from fair pay to be decent employers, but they also look at slightly more genuinely, deeply human ways of behaving as employers. So one of them is being human. So acknowledging life's admin, our relationships with our colleagues, understanding that we need to have a well-balanced life. We need to look after our mental health, our physical health, have good time off, have deliberate rest, encourage people's hobbies and their learning and how they learn and improve. And one of the slightly unusual little initiatives that we do is that with our team, if you want to learn about sustainability, if you want to do some training but it doesn't actually quite fit under catering, so if you wanted to learn about fashion, as long as it's under the sustainability umbrella, we will pay you to go and do that training. And it's been quite inspiring to see how engaged it's made so many members of our team, whether you're looking at mental health or foraging or spirits or booze or all different types of things that kind of circumnavigate sustainability and catering. By just approaching things in a slightly different way, you can build deeper relationships with your team. And I think that sustainability and the passion and the integrity that comes with doing things well actually creates a very different culture in your business. I think it's a very attractive thing to do in hospitality, and I think that it's a missed opportunity by a lot of operators that actually, if you're looking for a way to really engage your team, sustainability it's like a golden goose.
Thank you. Now, what I'd love to hear is, what has this done for your retention? Because retention is just a massive topic across the board. We also spoke a little bit about, but perhaps not looking at the standard financial KPIs, but looking at the other KPIs. How much are we spending on recruitment? How much are we spending on retention? So translating that through, can you tell us how well that's working for you?
So I think that one of the kind of interesting things is when it comes to ESG is that we as hospitality professionals and caterers, we're used to looking at KPIs, and we often we're going into this new realm where we've got slightly non-standardised, more qualitative data that we're going to have to be looking at. But one thing that we can use is staff retention figures. So we know that we have high turnover in hospitality and catering. So if we are keeping our team for longer, why are we keeping our team for longer? And obviously, because of the C word, some of our metrics are a little bit behind, and we're still playing with it, but we are already seeing that our team are staying for longer. We have less sickness, we have more engagement, where they are more productive, they're more driven, they're happier. So I actually think that there's a bit of secret sauce within sustainability to keeping your team on board and engaged and keeping them in your business. I mean, it's very unusual for us to. We have a small margin of people that turn over, which is quite normal, but we have a huge swathe of our team that stay for longer and are just staying with us. And I think it's a lot to do with how we operate, what we do, and our culture in the business.
Thank you so much. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I'd love to open it up to the floor for any questions that anyone may have. Any questions? Over here, please.
There. So I'm Sue Williams, and I manage a hotel called Whatney Manor over in Wiltshire. We're very much on our journey. Just a quick one for Natalie. I could listen to you all day, but I was just curious. You spoke of how you've chosen to sort of park your offsetting for the moment and direct the funds as you have. Is it a possibility you could do both? For example, things like peat bogs and things in the UK, things that also need investment. I suppose a little bit of why that direction? Why not? Just curious.
Absolutely. It's all about the framework. So we were offsetting as part of our carbon neutral certification, so PAS 2060, the final part once you've measured your footprint, done your reductions, any remaining carbon ultimately needed to be offset to get the neutral status. So if we continue to be PAS 2060, if we could find brilliant programs in the UK that actually sequester carbon from the atmosphere, we would do it. There just aren't that many, and the ones that do exist are oversubscribed and they're really expensive. So for the tonnage, you'll be looking at 20, 30, 40 pounds a tonne. I'm sure anyone who's counting their footprint at the moment, that can run into the tens of thousands of pounds. We would be happy to pay that if we could have a close relationship with where that money was going. So we're looking at the alternative options. So if we're not past 2060, what else could we be? There aren't any other frameworks that mean we can be carbon neutral, but we're still going to follow exactly the same process. So we're still going to measure, publish, reduce, ultimately try and remove. So the projects that we're investing in are also about carbon removal as well. And in our impact report, we've committed to a zero carbon journey. So it's also about working with our supply chain, so our glass manufacturer in the UK, to say, right, can we, if we move to hydrogen power, what does that mean? If our drinks producer is powered through solar and wind turbine, what does that mean? So it's all big what ifs at the moment, but we're investing in it. We're also investing in a trial to see if we can reuse these bottles. It might not be possible, but we're investing in exploring that because that then supports our circular economy journey. We see more value in doing that than spending on offsets that we can't get close to and feel. And I'm sure all of you feel this. As business leaders, we have to be auditors nowadays to understand what's really going on.
It's a very smart, very credible way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? Thank you. Over here.
Thank you all. It's lovely to see another platform full of lovely ladies. But another question for Natalie, if I may, is presumably somebody like RAP in London wasn't good enough.
Say that again?
Presumably somebody like the WRAP organisation in London was rejected by you guys.
Rejected?
As not a suitable organisation to help recycle.
We work with RAP. We have a partnership with RAP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But from an accreditation perspective, they don't work in the offset space from accreditation, but we actually have a toolkit partnership with them where we've spoken about uses of plastic, single use, circular economy. So they're a key partner, along with the Sustainable Restaurant Association, Social Enterprise UK. So there are lots of other partners that I didn't mention, and RAP are key.
Okay. And presumably, if there was a suitable organisation in the UK doing sensible recycling of aluminium, for example, which there is still some manufactured in the UK, obviously, but not always recycled. But if it was being done here, they'd become potential.
Absolutely. So other things that we do, we're basically looking at infrastructure in the UK, and we're calling on government to invest in proper recycling infrastructure. We need more aluminium recycling infrastructure. If that existed and we could short supply chain it, we would absolutely look at it. At the moment, we just know if we went into it, if the majority of it is being shipped out of the UK, we can't credibly lean into it. But we're working on that as well. The same with Tetra. If we could have better infrastructure around Tetra, that would be amazing. We think, reuse of a glass bottle isn't an old school thing. Remember the milkman? Milk person? It's just going back to the technologies we had of old and saying, well, let's bring them back. So we're investing in that. We publish those investments again in our purpose P&L. I think for a business like ours, it's really important for us to do it because we do give all of our profit away. We don't have the same financial pressures, and it means that we can prove the model and then enable other businesses to say, okay, this is now proven, let's do it. So we're that experimental, disruptive hub for others.
Thank you all very much.
We've got about 5 minutes left, so here we go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is Florence from Wortley Manor. And I would like to ask Natalie a question regarding plastic bottles. Because I understand from your perspective that you think plastic is kind of like the most low carbon footprint and can also be recycled here in UK. But as a matter of fact, the recycling rate for plastic is quite low here. And I just wonder whether you would think like how to enhance the clean recycling, as well as any thoughts on how to raise the recycling rate. Thank you.
So what I would say is, it depends on the type of plastic. So for rPET bottles, actually it's relatively high, and for the customers that we work with on our rPET, they're using commercial recycling facilities. It's the same with glass. So we have a slightly different calculation for the amount of rPET that we think is being recycled. What I would say is, when we're thinking about the trade-offs that we make as a business, one of the things that's really important for us is UK-made, low carbon. And when we look at the options, and again, it's all in our impact report, we've put each one side by side, we cannot feasibly step out of the lowest carbon option. What we can do is have no on-the-go option. And so we discussed that. Do we come out of on-the-go entirely? And so if you go into a Pure, you'll see that within Pure we have filtration machines, and you can buy a Belu refillable. That's the ideal model for us. The challenge is that not everyone's ready for that option. So we're saying to people, we'll give you a suite refillable with, that's me doing my filtration machine. A filtration machine with a refill that you can buy is the best option. But until you're ready to go on that journey, we will give you on the go. And actually, we're just rebranding our on the go packaging to give people more insight into how to recycle it better through a QR code. And what we'd really like to do is to find ways to be able to track the journey, which can be done now through embedded QRs on materials. But we've discussed it, and maybe the next time I'm sitting here, I'm saying Belu's coming out of rPET, but we won't do it if we know that someone else is just going to come in with an inferior product and fill the shelf with something else that then doesn't give any money to WaterAid or have any wider impact. I hope that answers the question. I feel like you said something about aluminium as well. Did I cover that off? No. Recycling, infrastructure, or?
The other part of the question is the recycling rate for plastic here is not that high. So since you guys rely on rPET, so definitely you need more clean, recycled like bottles to be recycled. So how are you going to, or do you have any plan to support it? Say, raise the awareness of proper recycling here, because I've seen lots of like waste bins, even though they are kind of like have designated purpose for carton, for plastic, glass, but all are kind of like mixed together. Thank you.
So in short, yes, I can feel Jack looking at me, yes, but we're lucky enough that actually we have enough cullet. So people are recycling because there is enough cullet in the UK, enough pellets in the UK to make our 100% recycled material bottles. The difference is when a bigger player like Coca-Cola comes in, they create demand, which is great, but actually the challenge is that if people aren't recycling enough globally, there isn't enough 100% recycled pellets to go around. But yes, we are working on that. On our new bottles, definitely our QR journey will have a lot more narrative around getting people to recycle responsibly. Working across infrastructure is a really big thing. So the conversations that we're having with government on that, conversations with local authorities as well as smaller pilots, and that's also connected to the Again trial that we'll be doing with the reuse glass bottles. But I maintain the best thing that we could do would be to not have to sell it, which means we need to shift the ecosystem to a better on-the-go option.
Thank you so much. That's time. And thank you so much for joining us. And if you could just join me in thanking this wonderful team.